All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Mirabal. I'm with the application team and doing the Design Shop Talk. We're doing these on a weekly basis, Thursdays from now forward. Try to get your questions answered. If you have things you want to learn, just type them in the chat. Don't send them privately. I do not see the ones sent privately. Just type them in while we're live. And if you see me looking off to the side, I've got another monitor sitting up over here. And that's what I'm looking at. Let me check if both platforms are up. There's Facebook. Excellent. And there's YouTube. So yeah, it looks like both platforms are up. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the questions that were sent in ahead of time, and then we'll jump in to any others that you guys type in while live. Let me get my thing so I can actually see the questions. So there we go. All right. So, I'm going to probably do this one more week and then I'll get rid of this, but just a reminder, we have a new form that you can use to submit questions. You can always submit them when I post online, this little picture, and type in questions you have there. But you can also use this little Google Doc and submit questions, and I'll pull them from there. Got a whole bunch of questions submitted there today, so that's looks like people are finding it and using it. So keep doing that. That's cool. All right, and we do have a link over there in the comments for you, so you don't have to try to type out this weirdness. All right, so questions that were sent in. What parameters do I need to adjust when digitizing an element for 60-weight thread? How can I set the thread so that my EMT16X can auto-assign? Okay, so parameters that you need to adjust. I was talking with a friend about this. Typically, I'll tell you what I've typically done. In general, the 60-weight thread is thinner, right? So it really depends on what you're doing with it, right? So if you're going small, I assume most of the time you're going to 60-weight thread because you're doing things really tiny. So you're already in a tiny little area. So whatever you would digitize for a 40-weight thread, often because of the size, you can just switch into the 60-weight thread and the smaller needle and have it sew well. Typically, I'll decrease the density a little bit myself. So if you're running at a 4, maybe a 3.7, or if you're running at a 3.7, maybe a 3.5, something like that. You don't have to decrease it a ton normally, and then just test sew it out. So that's the main thing I would look at, is the density. And, it depends on what size you're working on. Let's see. Auto assigning. All right, so here's the thing with that. If let's say you're using a black 60-weight thread and you're using a black 40-weight thread, all in the same file. They're both the same color number. They're both 1800. So when you go to load the design, it's going to pull whichever one is 1800. To get it to auto assign the number, let's say you have it on needle 10 is your 60-weight thread, you're going to have to fake it, meaning assign some random color that's not in the design to that cone and in your design, and then it will auto load that particular thing. And when neon pink shows up or fluorescent orange, that's really going to sew 60-weight thread. So you'll see it on the screen, and you know that you actually threaded it with your black 60-weight thread. So that's how you would do it, because 60-weight thread is it's the same number, right, in the color charts. So there's no way to auto do it. You have to fake it with the colors. A question was typed in. I'm a newbie and only use the software to do my training. I can't digitize. Do I have to digitize if I only want letters? Well, lettering is a form of digitizing, but it's super easy to do. So within DesignShop, all you have to do is click on the lettering and then select your font and type out what you want. So let's say I like these new fonts. So let's say you want that one. And I'm going to type my name, right? So you would type it out, center it, and then go into the properties and make sure the properties are set. If you have a new version of DesignShop, it automatically sets the auto density and underlay to auto. So you're already set up for success that way. The only thing you may want to do is add a little bit of pull compensation right here as pull offset. And again, the knots, your tie-in and tie-outs are already set with the latest install of the software. So you don't have to worry about all that. So it's pretty much that simple. Type out what you want, center it. That's always a good practice, to center it using this button. And then you can load it to your design and sew it. Check the size. Down here it gives you the size of it. So let's say you want that 3 inches wide, you would do that. Or maybe you want it 1 inch tall, whatever it is. So you can adjust down here on your sizing. But lettering is really straightforward. There are some good videos on both YouTube and in the online trainings where it goes over this lettering tool. But I mean, it's you can basically click on lettering, select your font, check your height. There are a lot of things you can do with it. So let's say you want to arc this font. That's this line type, arc, and things like that. And then it's just drag it around. So lettering's really easy, and there's no real reason to send it out, in my opinion, unless there's weird fonts that you're trying to match and you don't have, and you don't want to digitize it from hand, then send it out. But yes, there's a question typed in, can I watch this later? Absolutely. All of these are streamed live on both Facebook and YouTube, so you can find them on both platforms. There is on the Melco-service site, we'll get you a link to that. Oh, they already beat us to it. To submit questions. That same link that says to submit questions, in there is also a list of all the DesignShop talks with the topics we have, as well as links to the actual videos. So that same link that is up above, you can find the link to this exact talk later. Okay, so did that help you? I love being natural. Hopefully it did on lettering. All right, so let's see, what else did we get? All right, let me go back to my pre-done questions. All right, so we did this one. How do I get rid of the tall border and just have it around the wording? So this dashed line right here means there's a jump stitch of some sort programmed in there. So what you're going to need to do, and let me see if I can find a design that has that. File, open, C drive. Trying to think which one might have that. Are they here? Yeah, so there they are. So see these little dash lines there? All right, so there's a few ways. I've noticed in the new software, if you select everything and move it around, those will go away, which I thought was neat. So if I click that and then hold my shift, I just did shift and an arrow up and an arrow down, they all go away. So that's one option. Let me undo. Another that you could do, good morning, Scott, is you can go find that element of where it is, right? So there's, all right, if I turn on these, you can go find it wherever they are, select the stitch and hit delete. I find that to be kind of tedious, so moving it, it's right there. So see that JMP, you can select it and hit delete. And so right there, where did I find that? All right, so I hate looking for it in the stitch file, but if I then go to stitches here, right, that jump, see that right there? I can hit delete and now it's gone. All right, so you can scroll down the stitches list and look for all those jumps. They're going to be at the beginning or ends of different color changes. So let's see, there's another one. So you can select that, and again, it's right there, and I can hit delete. So you can look for those jumps, JMPs, and delete them, and they'll go away. All right, so those are kind of your two options for deleting those. All right, any other questions typed in so far? Nope, okay, so I'm gonna keep going. Please explain why this auto trim right here keeps coming back. Okay, so it's just a matter of where your starts and stops are. So what I did, I took a screenshot of it just so you could see it. The white, and I'll open the file, and let me just go open the file. It's test trim. Go back to project. All right, so I open the file, and there's that auto trim that you don't like. No matter how much you delete it, it's not going to delete this. It'll keep coming back. And the reason is this element here starts here, ends there. This element starts way down here and ends up here. So the start is nowhere near where the previous thing is. So it's doing an auto trim for you. And what you can see is my trick to this is I always go to where the auto trim is, click on the element after it, and look at the screen. All the info is on here for you. See the white propeller? That is where the prior element, so element 7, ended. The green circle is where the element you have selected is starting, and the red X is where it's ending. So all I need to do is rearrange my starts and stops. So if I select this element, click on that, I can say start here, end here. And now if I update my auto trims, it goes away. And it's that simple. It's just a matter of investigating where your starts and stops are, and it corrects itself. So now when this entire letter will sew start to finish with no trims. Okay, so that's all it was, is this element 8 was starting down here rather than starting up here. So it's just a matter of looking at your starts and stops. All right. Okay, so that was it. I really like the feature connection type closest point in the letters, but I don't like the connection between the dot in the letters I and J. Is there any other way to add the trim without converting it to wireframe? No. So the little lines, the jump stitches between the bottom part of the I and the top dot, they're going to be there. They're programmed in, and the only way you can get them to trim is to convert to wireframe and insert a trim. So that's the only way you can do. We do have that as a feature request in to change for future updates. So that is in the list to add that as an option to add trims there. But right now, converting is the only way you're going to be able to do it. I have a question typed in. Good morning. How do you blend two colors in one word? For example, grandma started with pink and going to purple by the end of the word. So that's going to be a matter of working on the art to create and deciding how you want it done. Let's see if I can. Let's see. I'm going to do a big blocky font just because I want to. Block 2. I'm going to make it big because I want to. I'm going to go into the properties and do flat fill. Okay. All right, so here's the thing with this. This right now is just a letter. What you would do typically is I would say, all right, so this one might be, you were going from purple and then to pink. So, okay, that's not purple. Let's try that again. Purple. And this one, 1990, whatever, purple and pink, right? Okay, so you've got to decide how you want that blend to go, right? Where you're going to start doing it, when you're going to start changing it, when you're going to add the gradients to it, and things like that. And so I'm just splitting it right now at the moment. Okay. So if I convert this to wireframe, you'll see it's not exactly straightforward, right? So let's take all of these properties. Scott's going to hate me at the moment because I'm just doing this for convenience for me. All right, so let's see. If I take this letter, these two letters, so I'm going to copy and paste it. Actually, I didn't need to copy and paste it. I could have just gone into the properties. Sorry, thinking on the fly here. Colors, effects, and you'll know there's a whole bunch of ways you can do this. So I can tell this to be a blend and then go and give it to colors, and then I can play with it. All right, so what did this just do? So I'm going to have to adjust each letter a little bit differently until I get the look I want, right? So if I go in here and go to these properties, a few things to think about. I typically like cleaner edges on mine. But there's purple under there and there's pink. So you can go under your effects tab under blending, and then I like doing auto update and then moving this thing around and playing with it until I'm getting the look I want, right? You can also look at, whether it's just a straight linear blend, playing with these if you want to reverse it to change which direction it's going, and things like that. So this one, I'm going from pink to purple, so that's about right. And then on this next one, I would be going from, is this right? Yeah. So I still want pink and purple. So I'm going to go into properties, effects, not that one, this one. Blend. I'm going to do linear again. And trapunto. And oops, I didn't actually turn on the blend, did I? Yeah, I did. That's different. Oh, there we go. All right. So in this case, I then would want to just change the density so it's got more purple and less pink. So I'm just going to keep playing with it until I get the look that I want with it. All right. So that isn't quite it. So I would probably change this one to pink, that one to purple, and then adjust the densities on it to phase out that pink, right? So maybe 10. I don't know. I literally, when I'm doing these, I literally just keep playing with settings until it looks pretty to me. And I'll leave it off of 3D because I tend to see the blend cleaner that way, and it will end up sewing well. So it really, if you have good art that shows the blend you want, you can then kind of work it in order. I will say this, using the blend this way, I tend to just do one on top of another rather than setting it up as a blend with here. So I tend to do it this way. So copy, undo, 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 undo. Okay. So I tend to take one letter, copy, paste, give it the second color, go to properties, set it as just a custom density, and then I can see everything underneath it. The purple is already there. None, none. And now I just play with this top one until I get the look I'm going for. So I need not as dense here, and I just go into the properties and play with it. And my favorite way to do that is just to move the stuff around to see how it's affecting the blend. See that? So I literally just play with these dots until I get the look. Okay? So that's my favorite way to do it. We do have a link on blending in there for you, so you can see it. And then in vice versa, over here I'd be adding, purple or something like that to phase them both in and out of each side. So the key is you get the art you want first, and then kind of work that gradient across letter at a time. We do have, if you're going like top to bottom, there are some really cool fonts that they're not there, they're here. Under here somewhere. Custom designs, gradient slab fonts. So there are some fonts that actually are pre-blended for you, so you can spell the words out by dragging these up here. So if you're going top to bottom, that's a neat effect as well. So there's a bunch of ways that you can work it, but it's just kind of step your way through it based on what art you're doing. Is that helpful at all? Or did I just confuse you more? I hope I didn't. All right. Let me know. I pay digitizers to make me double applique names all the time. There's got to be a way to do this. Yeah, there is a way to do this. So you sent in this file right here and said this is kind of what you've been doing. Things like this. All right, so first off, you need art, right? Whatever design you want. I'm going to go use, what's a good font? Let's just do Athletic Script. I'm just going to use that one. All right. I'm just using this to create art. It's not what you're going to be doing, but operations, I'm going to convert this to a vector. And then I'm going to take it all and merge it. Okay. So I just did that so I can create some art for you. All right. So what can we do with this? Well, I've got my art. I need to create that applique. Okay. So I can select it, hold my shift key, click on this, and notice now I have a walking stitch. Okay. So now that I've got a walking stitch there, that's one, so I can copy and paste it for whatever steps I want. But you also wanted a border on this thing. So there's this neat border tool, and you can notice how close it is, depending on how many borders you want. So let's say you want 2, or maybe 1, but you want the offset to be bigger. So see what it's doing? You can just play with it until you get the look. Maybe I like that. Yeah, so that's the border I'm going to do. And maybe I want 2. So, and then my additional offset's going to be a little bit taller. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a few borders, but maybe I want those to be running stitches instead of satin stitches. So I've got them selected, hold my control key down and click on there. So now I've got additional borders on there. So it's at this point, I've got a bunch of placement stitches. So now I just need to organize it into the order I want, right? So in this case, I'd probably want this one first. And then I would do a second color for this guy and it would go second. And then I would do my name. That would be third, right? So I'm building up. Maybe you want a placement stitch and then a tack down stitch. So I would take, copy, paste, give it another color. Copy, paste, give it another color. Same with the sky. Copy, paste, give it another color. All right, those are all walking stitches. Well, maybe your second, where you're actually placing it down, you don't want to be a normal walk stitch. Maybe you want those to be bean stitches. Well, I can change that to bean. All right, so now all of those, the second stitch for each of those is now a bean stitch. Maybe you want this guy to then also add a tackle to it. So I can copy and paste it, give it another color, hold my control key down, and click on the satin stitch here, and then I can tell it to be a tackle. From tackle, I can then say, all right, make it a 30-point tackle. Cool, so now I've got a tackle border on that stitch. All right, so I have my placement, my tack down, and then the tackle stitch. So you can do it really quick, like I just did here. That tackle stitch, a lot of people don't remember that control or shift trick that I've been using. So if you don't, that's okay. Select your thing, and then if you hold this down, right there's the box with 2 arrows. If you click on that, this is the same thing that those hotkeys are doing, but it gives you time to actually think about it. So this says, I want to go from a walk to, what do I want to go to? Let's say a single line, okay, because that's what that tackle stitch is. It's a form of a single line. And do you want to add a stitch or do you replace it? I'm going to add. All right, give it another color. Again, change it to tackle and maybe make the border bigger. Okay. So yes, you can absolutely quickly digitize the designs. The key to it is having art, right? So getting the design that you want to digitize. If it's in vector format like this, it's as simple as you just watch me do, right? A bunch of shift clicks and offsets or using the border tool, and voila, you're pretty close to being done, right? You can also, if you don't have a vector, so let's just say you have a photo, then you can still do it. It just means you have to digitize it by hand, right? So I have to use my walk and trace this thing, and I'm not going to trace the whole thing, but you can see I can follow along. Blah, 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 blah. There you go. But, you can trace it around using your walks, and then you can go back to your copy, paste, and offset, and the border tools and all that. Okay? Does that help? Hopefully it does. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to outline letters, and it's not working. All right, so first question I have is, how big is this stuff? This border looks beyond small just from the picture. So if you're doing a tiny text and trying to do borders like this, doing the borders after really thin is generally not the best way to do it. We do have some outlined fonts built into the software. Look at how they're done. It has a really good technique for doing that, but I'm going to show you as well. But let's see if I can find those fonts real quick, just as a reminder. Scott, which were they in? I know you're online. Block, 2-color, that one. Notice it does the outline first, and then the board, and then the text. All right. So why do you do it this way? So if I go redraw it, look how wide that border is, and then notice the satin stitch overlaps it. Doing that is kind of important for getting clean, pretty borders on it. So you'll notice many people always do the borders first and then the letter on top, because it allows you to, instead of having this really narrow border on the edge that's hard to sew, it lets you get that stitch wider and it will look cleaner and prettier all around. Okay, so what I would suggest doing is, let me get out of that font. So your font, I don't remember what it looked like. It's kind of just a basic block font of sorts. So block 2, and you, how many characters? Sorry, I'm trying to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 6, 7. So 7 characters is. Oops. Close enough. All right, and you said it was 2.5 wide, so rather small. All right, so ways we can do this. So these letters, so you said 2.5 wide. That puts my thing roughly 0.3 tall, so very small, right? Smallish. So if you go into properties and use auto borders, you'll notice that they're really small. And in order to get them to look pretty on the screen, I have to make them really small, and they're not going to sew well, right? Right, that's just not going to sew well at all. So how would I do this? Let me undo that. Undo, there. So what I would do for this is select this, shift. So I'm holding the shift key down, I'm clicking on that, and I can drag it up in front. I have some characters doing some weird stuff, so I'm gonna have to play cleanup on this, but it got me close, right? So I've got wider borders going down underneath there. So see how wide that is compared to what it was doing? And then my letter goes on top, so it's gonna sew cleaner. Now I've got some silly crap over here with this one that the conversion didn't work right. So I'm gonna have to go delete some points to clean that up. There and there. But that's pretty straightforward to do. And same with this T. In that case, I would redo that. But, you know, I can go in there, add the borders, move them to be first, and it's going to sew way cleaner that way. All right. Another trick you can always do if it's really small is, rather than adding a satin stitch like that, you can do a kind of a fill underneath it. So if I do a primer stitch, I'm just showing you different techniques, right? And make this really small. I don't remember. Yeah, that. So this gives you a different look, but I can do that. Take this, change its properties to be normal, change its color, and it'll give a similar look to having a border, but particularly when you're doing really micro stuff, that might be a different way you can do it. But I personally would do each letter individually rather than one continuous like this, just because it'll provide your separation. So anyway, when you're, oops, undo. All right, so back to your original question. Why is it doing this? One, that column is too small to be able to sew cleanly. So what you're gonna wanna do is do the border first and make it a wider satin stitch underneath this letter, and then do the letter on top. It'll sew way better. And then in here, you could probably just do a single column that covers that center, so that when the D goes on, it now looks nice and clean. So Sherry, does that help at all? It's really, this is just too small to sew. And you'll end up getting shifting and all kinds of stuff. All right, let me know. I have DS12. I digitized this as, basically digitized a patch. And when you sew it flat, it's great, but it gets distorted when you sew it on a hat. Yes, it does. Hats are spherical. So you've got, it's on a curve and it's spherical. So because of that, the shape has to be distorted to get the design correct. And what makes it even more fun is it depends on each individual style of hat. Commercial companies spend a lot of time per style of hat doing trial and error of figuring out what the distortions are to get the design, particularly when they're sewing leather patches onto hats. This is a good example, right? So they've got a patch that they are going to auto do, put on a hat with, just a shape, right? Well, to get it to match, because the style has a curve to it and a curve this way, it's a sphere. It's all trial and error, right? So they try a shape, sew it out, see what needs to change, move some points, sew it out, try it. And it's iterative because it's distorted because you're projecting onto a flat design onto a sphere. So it's going to distort it. I'm sure you can play math games and figure it out, but whenever I do it, it's literally trial and error. I'd look at this and go, okay, I want it to come down, so I'd distort my shape down this way and down, and whatever is going on back here. And you just add the distortions and sew it out, try it, and see how it goes. But here's the thing. It's going to have to change for each style of hat you do. So it's the age-old, it's a common and constant issue with when you're sewing on spheres that you're just going to have to adjust for. Okay. Yeah, what other questions do we have? So those were the questions that were sent in ahead of time. What else do we have? Any others? I'm going to hang on, see if anyone types in before I just cut the feed and then questions pop up. Oh, let's see. Any other ones? Otherwise, I will be back next Thursday and we'll do it again. Don't forget to type in questions and send them in on the little document, or when I post the pictures. It doesn't matter to me. Feature for future version hat distortion. I wish. That is so complex because we'd have to know the hat shapes and what spheres and the patterns of the hats. I don't even know how they do that, just because of how complex it is. I mean, massive commercial companies are always doing trial and error until they figure out the distortions. Now, as an engineer, I could figure it out. So but again, it depends on the hat shape. So I'd have to have their hat shape, figure it out, and then I'd have to be given the hat shape, which there's the complexion. Yeah, you have the distortion feature in lettering. Yep, you do. And we actually can, like on here, not even for lettering, for shapes. I'll show you this. So let me actually make it have variations. So you actually do have transform outline, where you can drag this around and it will distort whatever design you have selected to fit within there. So that works with designs as well, right? So you could try using the distort outline. So that's object, transform outline, and it works, however you want to distort it. Add points, move points, and it will stretch the design out to fit within that. All right, what other questions? Any? Okay. All right, everyone. I will be back next Thursday, and we'll do it again. Oh, no. Yes, I can still do it next Thursday. I am going on a trip next Thursday, but this is at noon, and I have to leave for the plane by 2:30. So we're still good. So yeah, next Thursday, I'm still good. I'm racing next weekend at the head of the Schuylkill. I'm so excited. My daughter and I are doing the mother-daughter race. So anyway, that is not this weekend, but next weekend. We're going to go play in Philly. It'll be great. All right, everyone. I will talk to you guys next week, and have fun sewing. Let us know what you want to learn about, and we'll try to get it done. All right. Have a good weekend. Bye, everyone.